every other person that I've had on, I've known them in my past. They're like close friends of mine, so it was easier to get the flow of like having a conversation with them. It's like, I know you, I know what I can ask you, and it was easier to kind of make a schematic of the conversation we're gonna have. So for this one, it's gonna be a lot more free flow, and I'm probably gonna go into more of who you are first to get a better idea of like why you ended up where you are.
Sure.
So we kind of talked about your background, obviously like immigrant mentality and all of that, but I kind of want to get more into just our origin story, kind of where you're from, because I actually don't know where you're from, and then
the streets.
Your experience in high school and kind of like growing up a little. Also, I think it's funny because I watched Hassan Minhaj's special yesterday on Netflix, because I saw your profile and you said you're his biggest fan. And I am a very big advocate of stand-up comedy, but I never really gave a chance to him just because I never really had the time, I guess. But though it was a little less on the stand-up side, his story and the points he was trying to get across were very, very it hits a spot, especially if you are an immigrant. So,
I mean, I guess I can probably start my origin story with Hassan Minhaj, actually. I'll tell you how it ties in. It's, I grew up on Long Island. We talked about this before, post 9/11, right? So that's obviously, a pretty big kind of frame to understand kind of my upbringing. My earliest memory was of 9/11 and like watching SpongeBob, and it's crazy. Like it sounds kind of comical, right? But like I remember clear as day watching SpongeBob, and in SpongeBob sometimes like they cut off to show like something else. That's part of the show, right? Yeah. So it cut off, and all I saw was like building on fire. So I don't know what's going on over here.
Is SpongeBob.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? I remember my mom walking in, and she starts crying, and I'm like, what? This is the most sad episode of SpongeBob I've ever seen in my life, right? And like slowly, like a 4-year-old kid doesn't really understand what's kind of going on.
You were in kindergarten, right?
No, I was even younger. I was probably like preschool or something like that.
Because for me, I remember it was kindergarten. I remember school ended early. I believe it was on a weekday, but I'm pretty sure school ended early. My mom, same thing. She came, picked me up. So we need to get home right now. Went home, and she was like kind of like hysterical. She's like, she doesn't know what was going on. She was scared.
I didn't understand either, because my older brother, he was in I think 4th or 5th grade at the time. So he comes home early, and I'm like, what is going on? Why is my brother at home? Like, what how do you explain to a 4-year-old child what's going on? Right?
Yeah. It was different. It just wasn't the norm. Like you already knew like kind of like what goes on as a child, but then it was just like this was like so out of the ordinary.
Something's
even a 4-year-old can understand. It's like something's going on here.
Yeah, and hearing things like I overheard my mom talking on the phone about like how someone we knew got like attacked in Queens and things of that nature. So anyway, like I started growing up, getting more perspective. I actually began to understand what happened on that day.
Right.
And we talked about this when we spoke last week, but kind of always like not fitting in, because my school is a very white kind of school, right?
Which part of Long Island?
Nassau County, East Meadow.
Okay.
So right by Hicksville. And I remember like going on YouTube, and this is when YouTube first, like 2005, maybe something like that. And these guys from California, these college kids from California, were making these videos, like extreme Islamical makeover, and it's kind of like parody videos that like we're talking about like lotas, lotas like the what do you call that thing? Like the bidet that people use in like Pakistan, like India, like whatever, right? Like things like that's relatable to us, but other people won't get, right? And for the first time, I finally found something that kind of resembled my experience, and the person who was making those videos was Hassan Minhaj.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Really, in early 2000...
2005. He was in 2005, 2006. He was in college at that point.
He was in college too.
Yeah. So I've been his fan since then, right? Damn. And like just growing up, seeing him like get this thing, this and this thing, and then 2-3 years, like maybe 2010 or whatever. From 2010 to 2012, I didn't really see much of him. I'm kind of going through my own kind of stuff, whatever, my own life, and then all of a sudden I'm just like going to the Daily Show. And I see Hassan Minhaj. I'm like, damn, bro, like we out here. Like,
I think those few years that you didn't see him was probably the years he was doing stand up. Because in his special, he talks about like how he was going state to state and going everywhere to do shows and such. It's probably those 2 years where him doing that.
And then seeing that, and it was so crazy because like I felt like I was on the Daily Show.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because like you know what I mean? Like I was like, damn, bro, like because I
felt the energy.
Yeah, because I relate to this guy.
Yeah.
Like I don't like Jon Stewart's really funny. Don't get me wrong, he's fantastic. but like I don't really relate to him.
It's a different background.
You know what I mean? Like, and seeing Hasan Minhaj, I was like, bro, that's dope.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like started realizing, I'm like, I kind of want to be what he is to me for someone coming up right now, right? Which is kind of a lofty goal. I don't think I'm gonna become like Hasan Minhaj, right? But
hey, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. But like, I guess that's kind of my origin story and kind of why I want to do stuff like this stuff. Like, I want to go into politics and like acting and music, because I kind of want to, show that our place. I mean, by our I mean like Muslim or South Asian place is wherever we want it to be.
Wherever we want it to be, right? And that's actually a big thing that I felt while I was watching it last night, was that personally, like I've seen a lot of stand up. I'm a huge stand up advocate. I love it, and his the first 30 minutes, I at first it was a little weak to me, and no disrespect, it was great. It was a great special, but in terms of like stand up, in terms of comedy, like humor, it wasn't as funny as a lot of the other stand ups I saw. But then as it kept going, I realized it wasn't just a stand up. It was him explaining it was his life. It was him explaining his life story in the form of stand up. It was a facet for him to get his story out there. And as it kept going, as it got closer to ending, I was like, oh my god, like though it's not necessarily funny, again, coming from the same background of like a immigrant family, Muslim family, I felt like the energy, like you said, you kind of felt like you were him. Like him being on the stage, I was like, holy crap, like if I really wanted, I could do that. Like I mean, if he can get there, I mean anyone can get there. And it was weird because he is one of the first guys that I've seen that comes from such a similar background, and he's like so accomplished in the creative world, and like it was like I felt that, and it was really, really weird.
Like if you see my my background on my phone, it's literally a Hijiki thing. You're right, 100%.
But yeah, it's crazy, and I think it's good. I think it's more common now for it to happen. I think people are it's getting better, but there's still a lot of progress to be made. I mean, he's one of the first, but that just goes to show there's many more to come. Yeah, I think it's a good role model to have, definitely.
But also, I'm excited for the next 20, 30 years of America, pretty much, right? Because our society is getting much more diverse,
right?
And also, like today's Hasan Minhaj, right? Tomorrow might be you, might be me, might be whoever else, right? And like for us growing up, we didn't have those figures in our life, right? But our kids definitely will.
Yeah, that's dope. That gets you. It's just you'll have someone to look up to. I was watching a vlog earlier today. I'm not really that big on vlogs, but I like watching videos by Rob Lipset. He's a fitness guy on YouTube, and he was talking about how when he first started off doing YouTube videos and such, he was looking up to another guy. His name's Steve Cook, and it's just like like he had that role model, someone very similar who got started from nothing and ended up somewhere, and that like drove him. But again, like we said, those similarities kind of have to be there for you to relate on a different level. So it's really important. So for you, when do you think you kind of got the itching or the drive to start shifting over to more creative work? Because I know coming from our families, and this is like really repetitive, but it's so true, is that like our parents push, and we talked about this last week, we push the whole like it's STEM background, doing something in hard science, math, whatever it may be, focusing on your career path and nothing else. So like when do you start, or when did it start kind of occurring to you that wasn't the best path?
What's funny is that growing up, I was never like diagnosed with speech impediment, but I always had like problems talking.
Okay. Like
I spoke really fast, I started stuttering. Even right now, you can probably hear a little bit of that remnant. So I was always scared to speak. Just like growing up, because I mean, like one, I was getting bullied for when I did speak. I would get bullied for being whatever, brown, whatever, and two, they bullied me for not being able to speak properly. Right. So it's like a double whammy.
Right.
And I remember getting into high school, and I'm like, listen, like why should I let other people define me, right? And why not try to improve myself? So like I would try to find public speaking opportunities just so I can like get better. And like the first couple times it was garbage, right? Because I couldn't say 2 words out of my mouth. But I got better and better. And I started realizing, I'm like, my parents are doctors, my brother's a doctor, right?
Really?
So
everyone in your family?
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you have one sibling only?
I have a younger brother. He wants to become a doctor too. So
you're the outlier.
Yeah. So I mean, I have a great amount of respect for doctors and engineers and these kind of things. But for me, I was always like, I was so intrigued with like storytelling.
Right.
I think that's what it comes down to, right? Like, because the Hasan Minhaj special, right? The Homecoming King is all just a coming of age story.
Yeah.
That's all it is. him, going out for prom with a white girl and her dating him at the last second.
Yeah. It's nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the way he tells it. Yeah.
Right. And for me, I'm like, I could have used that 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Right. I could have used that when I was 10 years old, and that kid was bullying me and calling me Osama and these kind of things. Right. And
it's crazy that you had to deal with that in Hicksville, because Hicksville's not that far.
East Meadow, but it's right in Hicksville. Yeah.
But it's that's not that far from New York City, Queens.
No, it's not.
For my background, it's I grew up in Queens, and I did deal with little bits of racism, but it was never that bad. I mean, my schools were relatively diverse. We had people from South Asian descent, people from the Caribbean, Guyanese, Trinidadian people, Indian people, Sikh people, and I feel like to that extent I've never dealt with it.
Well, because I think there's a piece of history we should discuss, which is that the town next to me, Levittown, was the first suburb in all of America. Oh, so after World War II, all the GIs got houses in Levittown and East Meadow and Hicksville, these kind of towns, right? And there was actual institutionalized racism, right? So what do I mean by that? There was a guy by the name of Robert Moses. Okay. And he, unlike the actual Moses, was a little bit of a racist, right? But he developed the bridges and highways and these kind of things. So do you drive?
Yes and no. Not often, but yes. Okay.
So there are highways, of course, on Long Island, right, of course. Their bridges are very low. I'm talking about maybe 8 feet, 9 feet.
Okay.
Right? The reason for that being the case is so let me backtrack a little bit, right? World War II happens, right? And this also comes at the same time as a lot of Black Americans move their way up, right? They move from the south to the north, right? So New York City started becoming a much more diverse place, right? More Black people, and I mean maybe brown people, but probably not at that time. Right?
At the time, it's probably just African Americans.
African American people, and they became a white flight, so they wanted to come to the suburbs, the newly invented suburbs in Levittown, East Meadow, these kind of places, right? But the thing was, they wanted to escape, quote unquote, the Black people, right? I mean, as discussing as that sound, that was the mindset back then, right? So Robert Moses made the bridges very low so that buses couldn't come from the city to the beaches in Long Island, right? And who uses buses, public transportation? People who have a poor background, and predominantly because of institutional racism for centuries, right? And keep in mind, this is still Jim Crow time, right? Even before Jim Crow ended, was predominantly African American people, right? So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, taking that into account, that's kind of insane.
And that's the backdrop, right? So now the older people in the community, the 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old people, they grew up in that environment, right? Now think about it, right? You have these people looking like us coming into that environment.
Right.
So at the very
it's like it kind of ties into how gentrifying is now, where people of different backgrounds will go into certain neighborhoods and it'll drive out older populations of people. Either they don't like the new people moving in,
or they're priced out,
or the price is too high. But very, very similar. So at this time, then when you were in high school, it was still probably predominantly families that come from those military backgrounds,
or things. The property was very cheap back then, right? So even if you weren't from a GI Joe background, is it GI Joe or just GI? I'm not sure.
I think it's just GI.
GI. I think GI Joe's an action figure, right? Yeah. My bad. For anyone watching this in the military, I don't want to disrespect you. I just didn't know the name. But it was predominantly people in the military background, or people who just were buying property at the time.
Right.
And taking that into account, your kids aren't born racist. They only hear they only know what they hear at home. Right. So experiencing that, and even the teachers. I mean, I never had a non-white teacher. I think in all of my education in public school. No, I had one. It was a Spanish teacher.
That
was it.
That's not really that diverse. And that's either way.
I don't think. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever had.
Never.
I mean, when I got to college.
Actually, that's a good. I wonder if I've had a couple of. Yeah, I've had a couple of Hispanic teachers, but I think, other than that, I had one.
Never had a black teacher. Never had a brown teacher.
In high school and in middle school I did, but I my high school experience was also very different because I went to a specialized high school. So a specialized high school is kind of, and I think that's actually, now that I think about it, that's probably the reason why I never had to deal with racism in that form, is because I'm assuming the high school you went to was zoned, it was for the area.
Yeah, for the
right, okay, that makes sense, because my high school, because it was specialized, it was only students who got in after taking the SHSAT, which was predominantly immigrant people.
Yeah.
My entire school was like brown, Indian people, again, Caribbean people, South Asian, Korean, Chinese. Like, it was, honestly, we had the opposite problem. We only had 2 white kids in our school.
Which is also why I think it's interesting to see where America ends up in 20, 30 years, because you have to understand, when our parents came to America, they didn't kind of have the privilege, you know what I'm saying, of like having very high paying jobs initially, right? And kind of, even something simple as like you're working at the PTA, right? Or school board.
Yeah.
Like, I'm obviously very politically involved, right? For me, I always say...
Even at a young age?
I think when I got to high school, I started getting more of that kind of understanding. The thing is, I always love to hear myself talk, but like I remember, like,
actually, you're the first person that I've heard say that. Most people, when I talk to them, they're like, I hate hearing myself talk. I personally hate hearing myself talk.
No, I hate hearing myself talk.
Oh, okay,
I love
being able to talk.
Being able to talk, right?
I'm like that
you
too.
see what I'm saying? But, you know, it's kind of like the duality of me not being able to speak literally and...
But the desire to.
Right. Which is also something I've had to unpack growing up too, but... What was I...
You're talking about high school, so your political roles.
Oh, right.
High school.
I always say that, you know, if you want to get involved in the community, like in politics, run for school board.
Right.
Like in my neighborhood, I think you need 1,000 votes to win. There's over 1,000 Muslim people in my community.
It's easily doable.
Right, and the reason why our, you know, Asian or Muslim or whatever, or minority backgrounds aren't represented, like in the faculty, or like Eid isn't a holiday, or these kind of things, like something like that, is because the people who show up on school board are white people. Yeah. Right? And the people who show up to school board meetings are white people. So that's why the football team gets more money, and so on and so forth. Right? Our research department at my school had one, what do you call those things? Not microscope. It was like a some special kind of microscope, whatever. Okay. That was it. And football team had like a Gatorade thing, and like this thing and that thing.
That's just because people representing the school were, you know, kind of making the funding go towards...
The principal of my school was a former quarterback of the high school.
Oh, there you go.
So, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So why I'm excited to see where America ends up in 20, 30 years is once because our parents, you know, this is not to blame them, they just didn't know, but like we understand how the game is kind of played here.
Wait up 1 second. I'm just going to turn the heater off here. I'm going to do that. Yeah, just keep going.
Like, they didn't like understand it, because the game is very different than the game back in Pakistan or Bangladesh or India, right? So I'm excited to see where we end up in 20, 30 years when we get older, we understand the game, and how to manipulate that game to kind of work in everyone's favor, not just in the favor of the few people who have that privilege.
Right. I was talking about, I don't know if you got to finish the conversation I had with Rihat, but when I talked to Rihat the other day, we ended it off talking about how there's more of a population today that wants to represent the community. Right. And I think a big part of that is because more people are becoming established enough to have the time to go out of their way and represent their community. Because no matter what, even though it's, you know, not, you know, a full-time job, it does take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of time to really represent a community, and also on top of that, to properly represent a community, because you need to go out, talk to people, and figure out, you know...
Feel the pulse of the community.
Yeah, exactly. And also I think a big part of that is now there's more integration between the community itself. I was talking to you about this last week, was when my parents were originally here, so my parents came here in the 90s. Well, my mom came here in the 90s, and she was talking to me about, you know, trying to find, you know, fellow Bengali people in the community that she could talk to. And back then, it was difficult. She couldn't find anyone that was, you know, from the same background. So whenever she did, she'd find comfort in it.
And now you go to Astoria in, like, you know, Steinway, and it's all Bengali people.
full of Bengali. It's honestly, it's too many Bengali people.
Jackson Heights, bro, we out here.
It's crazy, and I think that's a big reason why, you know, they're not, they have strength in numbers now, and because of that, they'll have the confidence of, like, you know, you can't just kind of push out, you know, one of us because there's so many of us. You know, there's someone and I talked to Rita about this, like someone to support you, you know, having a support system, and I think that's crucial.
$1 made in the Bengali Muslim community is $1 spent in the Bengali Muslim community. So like we can kind of, and this is where communities have come to America, have always found success, right? So when the Irish first came, or the Jewish people first came, they experienced a lot of the same racism that we do. Yeah. Right, but what they started forming enclaves where, like, they would create their own small businesses, and like their lawyers would represent them, and their doctors would treat them when other people didn't want to do that. Right?
Investing in the community itself, like, it's self-fulfilling.
Exactly. So like you didn't necessarily need those people who want to bring you down. You didn't need their money, and that's a very powerful thing, because when you need someone's money, your hands are tied. Yeah. And once your hands are freed from that financial burden and financial need, then you're able to do art, then you're able to do politics, then you're able to do things that make you more in the mainstream. In the same way that Irish people and Italian people and Jewish people in America have become more mainstream, you know, I think the next 20, 30 years, being Muslim or being brown will be the same way.
Right. It's just a matter of time.
And, you know, it kind of sucks that we have to be the generation to go through it, but it's also a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, that's the more. I think it's difficult to look at it for some people, but I think it's a more important thing, and it's a way that people should look at it. Is that, and this is one of the reasons why I always thought content creation would be cool for someone like me, is because there's a niche there right now, and there still is. You know,
there's a bubble right there.
Yeah, and there's only a few people that have filled it so far, and I want to say Hassan Minhaj is one.
Riz Ahmed has to be one.
And then who?
Riz Ahmed.
Yeah, that's one. Aziz Ansari is up there.
Mindy Kaling has to be.
Mindy Kaling, right? And it's like, the thing is, you can name them off. You can put them on your fingers, and there's only a couple of them that are really there in big roles. And that just means that there's opportunity there.
Kumail Nanjiani is also one.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of space. Yeah. You know what I mean? And to me, that was always just like an opportunity. It wasn't, you know, that it's not going to happen. It was like, there's chance there. And on top of that, again, this goes back to the video I was watching with Rob Lipset. He's talking about content creation. He goes, with the technology that everyone has today, you can do anything you want, whenever you want. It's literally the power is in your hands.
And you have no excuse.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is, from my podcast that I have, right? What do? We have literally, you need Skype, you need a laptop or an iPhone or whatever, some kind of phone. And we bought the program to record it for like $40.
Right.
So, like, and it requires minimal editing. And we put it out there. So, like, yeah, I mean, it's not professional grade, like, with drones and these kind of things, right?
But the entry cost is very low.
Entry cost is very low. And the thing is, people find a lot of value in our conversation. Same way people find a lot of value in your conversations, and they set up we're in your room.
Yeah.
We're not.
I mean, me and you had a 2-minute conversation about my shoes being in the background. It's not a big deal. It's content getting out there.
You know, at the end of the day, it's because I feel like people are too scared about entering than they are about kind of fulfilling what they want to do when they enter.
Yeah. And I mean, it is difficult.
The first step's the hardest.
And this is kind of like what I wanted to talk to you about your podcast. Is you're the first person I've had on here who really focuses on content creation. And the thing is, it's you know, I kind of want to talk about like why and like how you made that leap, because that first step is very difficult. There's a fine line of putting yourself out there where it's right in between like confidence and like
cockiness.
See, you already knew what I was gonna say.
Braggadocio, right? Like, look at me, bro. Like,
exactly. It's like when you put your content out there, when you start talking and you start doing things, when you're just starting, people have this innate thought of, you know, who do you think you are? And even if you're trying your best to be neutral and like not, you know, boast or in any way whatsoever, like you want to produce something that will help, it doesn't matter. If you cross this like little line, like you took one step too much.
What about vlogging, right? Like, if one of our friends starts vlogging, right? We're gonna be like, bro, you're full of yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
We don't care about you bringing a camera to your hookah lounge and smoking hookah. Like, come on, bro. But
if it provides use to someone out there, that's supply and demand.
No, but that's the key point you talk about right there, right? Where it's all about value.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So if I walk around with a camera all day, and you see me just like playing basketball and these kind of things, you're not really gaining much from that, right? And everyone's busy, so no one's gonna be watching my 30-minute video of me playing basketball or me like solving math equations, right? But the podcast that we have, right, What Muslims Look Like, is kind of supposed to highlight people in our community and what the cool stuff they're doing. So it provides value to that person, because obviously they get a platform to talk about it, right? And maybe someone's watching, and it's happened before. Someone's watching, like, yo, bro, that's so cool.
I mean, my friend, Pravin hit you up about it. Because
that was so dope.
He told you. I mean, he felt it. He's not even part of the Muslim community, but he felt it. He knew that it was something that definitely needs to be put out there. Because again, like we said, there's a little like opportunity spot. There's a bubble of
and you got before birth to
be filled. And I think it's important to try to do that. It's just difficult because when you take that step, when you make your first Facebook page, your first post, your first like whatever it may be. There's that obstacle of like, do I need to do this, or do I want to do this? But
here's the thing though, I didn't feel that for this, and the reason why is because even for my like Huffington Post series I used to do where I used to like profile people, is because it wasn't about me. Right. This is not like what Ayyan looks like, right? Well, I wasn't writing my Huffington Post series interviewing myself. Right. So I'm talking about someone else. I recommend this for everyone who's trying to create content, is interview people you look up to, right? Because we think that so and so person's unattainable to us. We can't reach them, whatever. You'd be surprised.
Right. I mean, we talked about this last week too. Is that you
I DM people, bro. Like I slide in the DM in the more halal manner, right? But and a lot of people are like, hey, we're down. Yeah. Right. And it's a great network because, for example, the first guest I had on my podcast was Faraz and Shamir, who create this they're YouTubers, and I interviewed them from a Huffington Post series a couple weeks before that. Right, and now that they're like some good friends of mine, and we collaborate all the time on different things. Right. So I think creating content for yourself, and that's fine. Like I'm not saying anything like that. Like I make music, or whatever too. But at the end of the day, like also understand that like we don't owe anyone anything. But at the same time, like if you're providing value to other people, The same with Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Right.
Why is he so popular?
He gets. I mean, for some people, some people hate him. He's annoying. He has no value to some, but to others, there's value. They see something.
People put their post notifications on and reply 60-second club to all his posts. Or watch his 2-hour podcast religiously. Mm-hmm. Right, and that's only because people will call in. One guy called in one time when Hassan Minhaj was on
on Gary's show.
Yeah, on his podcast. And someone called in, and it's this Indian dude saying, I'm from India, I'm doing stand-up comedy in Arizona. And Gary's like, okay, give me your contact information, I'll show up to your show in New York.
Damn.
You see what I'm saying? Things like that, right?
Yeah.
And I think, I have to also realize I'm in a privileged situation where, I am the president of the student government.
Right.
Right? And, that comes with some level of, respect in that, right? So, I think people will be willing to give me a chance where they wouldn't be other people. And, I that's awesome. But at the same time, I have to use that privilege to
I want to not to quote Spider-Man, but with great power.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? I can't use that, that platform then to just talk about myself all the time because I think I'm kind of doing good stuff for myself anyway, and I think people around me know that. Or not know that I'm good, but that's kind of egotistical. I mean, they know what I'm up to.
They understand. But they understand what you're trying to do, and I think that's the crucial part of not crossing the lines, staying in between of confident and cocky is just letting people know that what you're doing isn't just for you. You're trying to provide something, and I mean that just, makes sense. I think in America's economy, we also talked about this is America's economy is a supply and demand economy. It's one of it's a one of a kind economy where it doesn't matter what you're doing, doesn't matter where you started. If you are supplying something that someone else needs and the demand is fulfilled, and we're both economics majors, we know this. It's going to work out.
The internet also is such an equalizing playing field, right? Because Hassan Minhaj, those videos I was talking about when I was 10 years old, right? He was in California.
Right. You could reach someone.
I found YouTube videos from he was in California. I was in New York watching the videos.
Yeah.
Right, and people from maybe Pakistan watching the. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, for anyone watching this that's scared to take that first step, I think take that first step. Kind of not taking someone else's idea, but leveraging that to your advantage. So interviewing them, right? And as you start interviewing them, you'll find that opportunities will come your way.
I mean, this is an opportunity for me, and I didn't think I would be talking to you, but I mean, the way I contacted you was through Rihat on the last one. I mean, I talked to him, and I knew that you were doing something similar, and I wanted to talk to you, and I didn't really have I knew you through Justine, but I didn't really have the best in of communications. But he gave me your number. He told you that I would be hitting you up, and you're here. This is the third conversation we've had.
Also, I think it's important too, and we're talking about that fine line.
Yeah.
Is don't take yourself too seriously. You know what I mean? Where people I'm connected with many student government presidents across SUNY and people like that, and it's funny because there's some people who are very gracious with their time. They'll be hey, let's grab coffee one day, or let's FaceTime, and just to talk, whatever, right? And other people, they have an agenda, and they talk to you up I want to do this, and this with you,
right?
And I'm too busy to talk to you otherwise, right? Understand that you could be a great singer or rapper or politician or whatever. At the end of the day, you're a human being too, right? And you were in that same place as someone reaching out to you yesterday.
Yeah.
So I think the braggadocio comes into play of oh yeah, if you're some famous people, right? If you ask them for a picture, they'll be no.
Right.
Would it really hurt you just to take a selfie with this person?
I think some people forget that, and I think it's. I also this is one part where it's I kind of want to blame social media for it. Is that there's a point where we have we see some of these people and it's almost unreal. Mm-hmm. The level of person that they are. And it sounds weird to say, but
they're a human being beyond the camera.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You see all these posts, and sometimes it looks so. I don't want to say fake, but it seems I like using unreal. It's just it seems they're kind of unreachable, but they are at the end of the day another human being.
They're a human being, yeah.
And the most important thing, I think the best way to put it is they're just as susceptible to anything happening to them as anyone else. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the important baseline to know.
I think really the key word is humility and value. Mm-hmm. Right? Understanding that you're even if your podcast pops off tomorrow, right? And then you start getting 1 million views and nice. Whatever, right? Or let's say I don't know, someone listens to my rap song, they have me OVO or whatever, right? At the end of the day, we were once kids growing up on Long Island and Queens. Yeah. We were once kids in college and not really know what we were doing with our lives. You know what I'm saying? We were, you know, once that kid who had, like, you know, diarrhea and his mom needed to wake up. You know what I'm saying? Like you know, like, we were all these experiences.
Joe Rogan puts it the best, and this is one of his things.
Who is this?
Joe Rogan.
Oh, I haven't heard.
You've never heard Joe Rogan's podcast? You gotta listen to Joe Rogan. He's honestly, he's one of the main reasons why I started podcasts, is because he's provided me so much knowledge and information.
Sure, I'll check him out.
But he just talks to like amazing guests just from all over the spectrum of people, and like high end guests. I think he's the largest podcast out there, to be honest. But one of the things he says that really always stood out to me, and he says this a lot, is that when you stop looking at people as people and you start looking at them like babies, that's when you truly understand, you know, empathy on a different level. It's like that person was a baby at one point, you know, like there are things in their psyche and their psychology and their, you know, their upbringing, their day to day that initiated because of something else that was, you know, out of their control. And, you know, maybe they didn't choose to be like that, but it just happened to happen. And, you know, you never know what someone else is going through or what they've been through. And that really, like, stuck with me.
And the craziest part is, though, it's like, it's so wild when, like, maybe you've gotten this before, or, I'm not sure, but, like, I remember there was one person who hit me up after I won, and they were, like, genuinely so happy for me, right? Like, I could tell it was so genuine. It was, like, they didn't have anything else. They were just, like, you know, like, I was like, and like this person's a very religious person, right? So like, and they're like, oh, I was praying night and day for you, and like that level of love and empathy, right, that you get from someone else is awesome,
right?
And that inspires you to create more content or to kind of achieving, because like the same way, like I genuinely like, and I said this before, like when Hassan Minhaj gets this, you know, new film role or this thing or that thing, I feel like I got it too, right? And like kind of feeling, that maybe even at this like lower level that even one person got some value from what I'm saying or what I'm doing, that's awesome.
You feel the impact of it.
Like, I'm not a rich person. Like, I don't make money off of this stuff. Like, I don't get paid for my podcast. You know, I barely get paid for my USG stuff. Right? But, like, when a girl comes up to me and says, oh, you know, like, I had my period and I was ashamed, but then I saw that we had free menstrual pads on campus, and I took one, you know, and I'm
it helped her, you know? It was good. It was, you know, something that stuck. It was something that, I think this goes back to the baby thing, is that something that affected their day, and you know that, like, it was a positive effect, and you were able to do that.
Or maybe people who,
and
like,
it feels good.
Maybe people who, like, will never even know USG did or even who I am, but if they benefit from it and they feel a bit better, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's about. It's not about, like, making money or getting followers. And, like, to be honest with you, like, yeah, if my stuff pops off and I become this famous person, that's awesome.
I think a good part, or a big part of it, for me in particular, I don't know if it is as much for you, is the satisfaction would come from blowing up or, like, you know, being a big podcast or, you know,
celebrity or kind of things.
That kind of thing. Not because of the role itself, but the fact that I'll know that I am impacting and helping so many people. Right? You know, I always think about these big podcasts that are out there. Joe Rogan is a perfect example. Millions of people listen to his podcast, like every single episode. Millions. And I know that I'm one of them who has gained so much knowledge. I know many friends, many people who have. And, you know, I wonder, like, being in his role, like, he knows, like, he's getting this content out there, and he knows he's capable of helping these people. And I think that's just an awesome feeling.
Yeah, man, I think that's the goal for everyone, right? At the end of the day, like, everyone wants to be, like, well off and all that kind of things. But on your deathbed, you only think about the Ferrari you bought or, like, you know, the mansion you have. It's like, all right, like, I lived X amount of years of my life. Have I impacted people's lives in the way I wanted to? And, like, you know, I don't want to be on my deathbed and thinking, hey, listen, like, got that rollie, you know what I mean? But, like, what have I done with my time?
Right.
And even
nice.
Yeah. but even like Islamically, right? Like, there is a chapter in the Quran where Allah is talking about so Allah swears by time, and when God swears by something, you know, it's a pretty serious thing, right? Serious. And He says, "Verily, all mankind's at loss." Let's see. Besides the people who speak the truth and people who have patience, right? So He didn't say the people who, you know what I'm saying, like, do this and this and this. It's pretty much just like people who are honest people, and people who are patient and understand that, you know, you won't get everything at once, and you may never get the things you want. It might be possible, right? Let's say I have goals to go into politics, right? It may be possible that in my lifetime we don't have a Muslim president, and that's okay.
I just want to set the stage. Yeah, I want the momentum for it to be possible.
Yeah, I want to, on my deathbed, know that at least I create the infrastructure that maybe someone else who comes 50 years after me might have the opportunity to do so.
I mean, I don't know if you know. I don't know if they even keep record of this, but for USG, student government, I don't know had they ever had a previous South Asian or brown or Middle Eastern president in the role.
We actually had a pretty diverse array of presidents. Okay. We certainly had a couple South Asian presidents. Mm-hmm. And we had one president a couple years back who was Muslim, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
It was kind of awkward because people were like, "Hey, you're the first Muslim president." I had to correct them,
because no, that's not true.
Because there was this right after one, there was this MSA alumni dinner, and so 100 people, and this chaplain's like, "Yeah, you're the first Muslim president." I'm like, I don't want to correct her in front of all the people, and I was like,
"It's just good to go with."
Yeah, let's go with it, I guess. Yeah, but it's good, bro. I'm happy where I am today,
and I actually want to delve more into your role as a president. So I know you said you started off as a AMS Eco, right?
In college?
Yeah.
No, I was BME when I came.
Okay, so you were BME, and wait, just BME?
I was BME.
Okay, so you're just BME freshman year, so I kind of want to go, we went over the past years. So I want to go into your college career,
and
then how you kind of strayed away from the more of the educational path and more towards content creation, doing all this, the political stuff and all of that.
Yeah, so I guess from a young age, my parents wanted to become a doctor, right? That's kind of the goal. And when I was in 12th grade, I was like, listen, I find BME kind of cooler than that. And they're like, what the hell? Right? What do you mean by that?
Really? Even at engineering, they were questioning?
Well, I mean, listen, it wasn't at a bad place. They wanted me to just have a sustainable, life, right? They knew becoming a doctor is probably the most sustainable career there is. People are always going to be sick. Right. It's always going to happen. But anyway, I get to college. I'm in BME. And, within the first week, I was like, bro, this is not for me. Right?
So it's pretty early on.
Yeah. I was like...
That's pretty similar to... That's funny, because that's pretty similar to Justine's story.
Yeah, Justine's the same stuff.
When I talked to her, she said the same thing. When she came in originally, she just didn't feel it. It was almost immediate to her. And
But see, for me, I'm a very, when I change my mind, I'm very decisive. Mm-hmm. So, right there and there, I was like, I'm going to drop chemistry. I'm going to GPNC, BME 100.
So it was almost immediate.
Yeah, I was I'm dub, nah, I'm good.
I think that's a smart way to do it.
Because I was like, listen, and the hard part for my parents was, and I kind of feel bad for my parents to do this because, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that's not what I wanted to do.
I don't think anyone does. It's a big thing, and I feel like that's a. I mean, it's understandable that they won't get it because they didn't have the choice.
Also, my older brother, he's a doctor, right? So he did
so he already set the
XYZ
stage for you.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But our parents never had the choice.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
So they don't get the idea of just picking anything and making it lucrative. Making it whatever you want it to be.
And so I think what happens after that is, and so I knew I wanted to get into politics at that point, right? I knew that's what I wanted to do. The summer before freshman year, I was at this UN conference. It's pretty cool. I think they actually got a write up in Newsday, a whole page feature of me, which is actually for a 17-year-old kid is actually pretty freaking cool, right?
Pretty cool. Yeah.
So that was cool. But I knew I wanted to get into politics, so I was like, all right, that semester I took some BS class, some random courses or whatever, right?
There's probably stuff that feel like the gen ed requirements.
Yeah, it was whatever. I don't remember what I took. But then I started applying stuff, and that summer, going to sophomore year, I worked at the UN actually for the Security Council, which was a pretty cool experience.
How did you get that opportunity? Did you just kind of look around?
So it was pretty funny how that happened, and I don't know, I'm very blessed in kind of how these serendipitous opportunities just come out of nowhere for me. So
I always just quick sidetrack. I tell a lot of people this, and I always tell my friend he's a very accomplished person for someone who's 21. He's got a great career going for him right now, and he always tells me he's lucky. And I always say that luck isn't, it doesn't just happen. You have to put yourself in positions of luck.
But it's crazy how I think everyone gets lucky at some point, but not everyone knows what to do with that luck. I think that's the key thing, right? Because I think we all have these opportunities in our life where had we followed up with that person or whatever the case may be, we might be in a different place.
That's true.
This is at the same time at the beginning of freshman year, and UPNA is this group of Pakistani doctors in America, and so they want to give me an award for this nonprofit work I was doing. So I'm like, okay, sure, I'll come. Of course, I'm so honored by that. So the guy giving me the award was the Consul General from Pakistan, who was in New York City. And he goes, listen, take my number, and I think you have a bright future ahead of you, and if you ever need anything, let me know. Right? So I was like, hell yeah, bro. What do you mean? I'm going to let you know. Right? And he goes, hey, listen, you should apply to... Because the Consul General works with the ambassador to the UN, they're very hand in hand. So he goes, you should apply to this opportunity. right? And I was like, damn, okay, right?
So
I applied.
he messaged you and he told you.
Yeah, he showed up. He's like, yeah, you should do it. Maybe that same day, maybe he told me afterwards. I don't remember which the chronology of that. So I applied, and like obviously when you have the recommendation of the consul general and you're applying to an internship, especially like Pakistani place, you're pretty good. Plus, I spoke to them in Urdu during my interview, and they're actually really impressed. Like, they asked me, did you grow up in Karachi? I'm like, no, I grew up in Long Island. And they're like, Zabardast. like fantastic. That's what they did, right? So that was a cool experience for me, kind of seeing. And I worked at Security Council. The UN is like has several different branches. I guess the most main or central part of the UN is the Security Council, where you have the U.S. and these kind of countries. It's like 13 countries. So there's 5 permanent ones, and I don't want to go to like the whole politics of it, but I got to see like the world politics up close and personal. I was able to be around some really like the Secretary General of the UN and stuff like that. For like a 19-year-old kid, that was also pretty cool.
That's pretty heavy at that age. I think it's so much. I think at that age, like it would be difficult to even. Yeah. Probably now you think back on it, and you're like, wow, like I was in a pretty big position, at that age.
And like the coolest part was like, I had the same badge the ambassadors did, right? So I could go everywhere in the entire place.
Wow.
And it's funny because I would be walking into the UN and tourists would think I'm like an ambassador ever, right? So taking pictures of me, and I'm like, what? Like, can I get a picture with you? I'm like, yeah, you can get a picture with me.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. And like, where are you from? They're like, oh, I'm from Pakistan, right? Like us, Pakistani mission. Oh, he's an ambassador from Pakistan. I'm like, no, that's not me. But that was cool. And also, I mean, on a resume, that's fantastic, right? Like, that was able to open so many doors for me. And then I ended up sophomore year. And by the way, at the same time, I was working in student government, right? So I was interning for the previous president, Cole Lee. Sophomore year, I became his assistant and chief of staff later on.
Okay. I
also began working for Senator Gillibrand in her Long Island office. So I kind of started gaining experiences like that. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I got more involved in the political end. And creating content.
So wait, when did you decide on? So what is your kind of end college major? Like, what did you?
Economics. I'm majoring economics. Yeah.
So you didn't go towards more like I think Justine ended up doing poli-sci.
She's doing journalism.
Journalism. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Justine. But she's ended up doing journalism, which is a little bit more tied into what she's doing. Like, how come you didn't choose
the poli-sci or whatever?
Yeah.
Because for me, I was like, my day-to-day life is poli-sci.
Oh, okay.
Right, like, think about like I was working in student government. I was working for Senator Gillibrand, working at the UN, working for campaigns, congressional campaigns. That's all poli-sci, real world. So I'm like studying that's kind of like overkill.
Right.
And like economics is a very interesting thing just to learn for your own knowledge, but also like for any person who goes to politics, like you have to know economics,
you
of course.
You have to know how the world works.
Yeah. And also it's a very light credit load, which is a nice little plug. But yeah, I was like, all these things kind of coincide, and like I like math, so why not?
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so you started doing all this stuff, and then it started just kind of snowballed itself.
Yeah. And like one thing led to another. And actually, the crazy thing happened right after I won, became president. Senator Gillibrand came to Long Island to come to an event, and like she invited all the interns to come to help set up and these kind of things. And so one of the staff, so we're standing like right here, and Senator Gillibrand is like facing us, and one of her staffers goes, "Oh, this is Ayyan. He just won his election as student government president." And she's talking for 5 minutes, like, "Oh, congratulations, that's so awesome." And I'm like a blabbering idiot, right? I'm like, this is like the most powerful woman in the entire United States talking to me. I was like, "Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it." But no, I've been privileged to be in very like cool situations. And yeah, like I made those situations kind of become more than what they actually were at face value. But at the end of the day, I'm blessed. Like
I mean, there's a quote I want to point that out. That's actually one of my favorite quotes from The Richest Man in Babylon.
Men of action are favored, but
the goddess of good luck. It's
one
of my favorite quotes in the book, and it says, if you're doing something and you're putting yourself out there, there's always going to be a higher chance, higher probability. Because you like math, and I'm a math major, but probabilities. I mean, it's literally just a game of numbers. The more you put yourself out there, the more you do, the more likely it is for something to happen just out of the blue.
The more shots you take, the better chance, one of your half-court shots goes in. It's a simple. The probability is not going to increase, but the probability of you succeeding one time will increase.
Yeah. I actually had this conversation with another friend that I had here. He's this is a little off track, but he's a fraternity brother, and he said the same thing about like going for like girls and like talking to chicks. It's like you got to shoot your shot. Same thing. But same concept. It applies to everything. It really does. It's kind of universal. But so when did you decide I wanted to run for USG president? Because that's also a big decision.
I kind of always had it in the back of my head. Like, I'm a very, like, ambitious person, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to campus, and I was like, how do I, like, succeed on this campus?
Mm-hmm.
And I started interning for Cole the first day of freshman year, and I was like, you know what, that would be pretty cool to do, right? But the issue is that there was no, like, infrastructure for, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have an older brother that went here, nothing like that, so I kind of had to figure out how the ropes worked, or whatever. And so I kind of paid my dues. I worked for Cole's campaign, the end of freshman year, became assistant afterwards. And I started gaining experience with administration because, like, I was his chief of staff, right? Mm-hmm. So I was his, like, pretty much envoy, so to speak, to, like, President Stanley and administrators and faculty and staff, and even just a lot of students.
Right.
So my name kind of got out there in that way. Mm-hmm. And I started getting more confidence, too, because I'm like, I think I can do this. Mm-hmm. Right? Because when he wasn't there, I was pretty much the president pro tempore, whatever you want to call it, right?
Like, you knew what was going on. You knew the inside
and
the functionality of the role itself.
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think anyone knew the role better than I did besides Cole. Because, I mean, he was president for 2 years, and I worked with him for 2 years.
Right.
So I learned all about the budget. I learned all about the club policies, about how to interact with administration, so on and so forth. And then I was kind of like, you know what, let's give it a shot.
Okay.
It was, to be honest with you, running was terrible. And I'm sure Justine would tell you the same experience. Like, it was hard. But it's
she was. Yeah. I mean, when I talked to her, she told me it was grueling work.
Brutal.
It was torture. It was just. I remember seeing her during those weeks, and she was never around to hang out. Like, like some of her friends, like all of my group of friends is very close with her, and everyone would always kind of be like, oh, like hang out and stuff, and she just didn't have the time. And there's a point where we all understood, it's like, no, it's not gonna happen. Like she's too busy. It's just not gonna happen.
And the thing was for me was because we formed parties in student government, right? So like I had to form executive council and senators to run with us. And so for me, I felt this onus on me to make sure everyone wins, right? Because I invited them to my party. I gave them my word that I'm going to do everything I can, right? So I was like, I'm talking about campaigning from like 8 in till 2 in type thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, like I was talking to everyone and anyone, like I was out there, right? And I was kind of lucky, again, to be around people who were just as hardworking as I was, right? Because if Justine didn't put the work in to make those flyers, we wouldn't have the flyers.
Right.
I mean, they were really good quality. Like, they weren't like garbage. They were very, very good quality. If other people in our party didn't come up with other stuff, like, it wasn't me.
It was a team effort.
It was a team effort,
yeah.
100%. Like, I would not be in the position I am today if it wasn't for them going out and getting votes for not only themselves, but for me as well.
Right.
And it's also just as gratifying knowing that a lot of people, especially in student governments in the past elections, they promised really, like, crazy stuff that never is going to get done. And it's really fulfilling knowing that the stuff I promised, we've been able to get done.
Yeah, it's actually happened.
Yeah.
You could see it in its physical form.
And like that's pretty cool. I think that's
goes back to helping people, the positivity thing. So branching off from being the USG president, the last thing I want to talk about is how you went from your role in politics and all this stuff to wanting to get into creation and then focusing more on your role in co-hosting What Muslims Look Like.
Yeah, I've always loved hip hop music. That's always been like ever since I was like 7 or like 6. I don't even know. Like, I think probably my earliest song I listened to was what was that Snoop Dogg song? What was it?
I want to say it's gonna be Drop It Like
Drop It Like Hot. Yeah, Drop It Like Hot. I know I can remember that right now.
Because that's like the most well-known Snoop Dogg song.
So that was that. I remember when 50 Cent dropped "Get Rich or Die Trying." Right. Early, I mean, like you know what I mean. Like that was a time where I was like, "This is awesome." And I kind of relate to that, right? Because like, yeah, I'm not black, but the experience of kind of being persecuted for who you are, like I kind of relate to that on some kind of level. And I always want to get involved in the hip hop community. But like, I mean, like I release music now, but like that takes a lot of like guts to put out music. It's very hard to do that. But I was like, you know what? I like writing, so why not start a series and profile like young actors or politicians or musicians or whatever. And so I started.
This was the Huffington Post
series, yeah, right. And the podcast is kind of the same way. I was like, you know what, like I think that I'm doing kind of on the come up right now and doing some pretty cool stuff, but I'm sure I'm not alone. So you know what I'm saying, and like at the end of the day, I feel like brown people like crabs. You know, crab in the barrel. Yeah, like you know how like.
Oh, okay. I know.
So like you see like when
you
a crab
go to the fish market and there's just the basket of them. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, but like so when one crab is coming out of the barrel, right before they come up, another crab will grab their leg and bring it down. Right?
I always thought that was fucked up.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. But I feel like brown people are like that too often. I'm like, listen, like I'm all about, and I think like this is why I think people like listening to like your stuff or my stuff or anyone's stuff is because we're all about uplifting people, right? It's like the part of you sit on this podcast, not to talk about you, it's talk about other people.
Let's talk about other people, yeah.
Right? For me, it wasn't like, I mean, if I wanted to, I could just record a podcast and talk about myself all day.
Yeah.
Right? But it's about like, let's big ourselves up. So I think that's kind of where my content creation comes from. And like in the future, like I want to make movies, I want to make music, I want to start producing, running for office potentially, working for campaigns in the future. Like these are all things I want to do, and like I know these are all like lofty goals, but like Russ, the rapper Russ, one time he said, "It's easier said than done, but if it can be said, it can be done."
Yeah, I mean
that's profound.
He's something else.
That's
profound,
profound, right?
He's put out so much content, it's crazy.
Once a week for the past I don't know how many weeks.
He has so much music out there, but yeah, that's crazy. So you started it. So why did you choose to? I think we talked about this. You chose to co-host. So was she a part of the original idea, or did you bring it up to her?
So she's actually my cousin.
Okay.
And she's also very like a creative person. She's majoring in film, Shifa. And we talk from time, like we used to talk all the time just about like our creative passions, whatever. And I had this idea of like, maybe I should make a podcast. Like that'd be pretty cool, right? Like a new thing. Like writing is cool, but like writing's kind of boring too, right? Because like, you know what I'm saying? Podcasts are much more organic because we're just talking.
And yeah, that's a big part of it. Is I was talking to you about how I wanted to do the YouTube thing, of like putting myself on video and all of that stuff, but there's always a part of me that felt like it was really unnatural. Like you see these people on YouTube vlogging and stuff, and it's all like pretty and perfect, and that's not the real world. You know what I mean?
But I think that's why it's important. Like our Skype things that we post, like I look like you probably see me right now, I look like a bum, right? But the whole point is like, life is like we're college students. Let's behave like college students. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna be in 3-piece suit all day. Like, it's not gonna happen, you know.
But yeah, like those types of things that are on YouTube, the whole vlogging thing, the whole like whoever puts up content up there, I didn't like the fact that it felt a little less like human. Like it felt like kind of like made, for show. And
it's kind of like a movie, right? Like when you watch a movie, it's suspension of disbelief. But I like to think YouTube is a much more organic medium for that.
And the thing with podcasts is that you're getting these stories firsthand, and you're getting them in like a real conversation. Like this conversation is a natural conversation. Like I don't really know you that well personally, and it's not like a problem.
And there's no notes or anything like that. We're just kind of talking.
We're just talking. I usually write like a couple questions, but I didn't even do that for this one, and it's been going fine, not an issue. And I think that's where podcasts are really interesting, is the fact that it's just people talking organically. And yeah, I think it's really crucial to get your content specifically out there. Like mine's more general. What I've been trying to do is just for college students, but I think for you, trying to help the Muslim community and all of that. And like I really didn't take into consideration just like because we talk about our backgrounds. Like my background didn't have as much of that racism, so I never really thought about it as much.
That's interesting. That's a very interesting point.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with Rehat. Like when he was telling me like his upbringing in an elementary school, his kind of religious affiliations is a lot stronger than mine's, and that's not a bad thing or a good. It's no connotation.
It just is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, and it like really goes to show me. It's just like I didn't realize the extent to which it affected, and that says a lot for the people who aren't even from Muslim background. Like me coming from my background, I didn't even realize how bad it was.
Also, a very important thing though is a big reason why we started this podcast and called it "What Muslims Look Like." Was because it's almost like ironic, right? Because Muslims don't look like one thing. That was the whole point. That was the whole point to that name. But also, in the Muslim community, there's a very big emphasis on the South Asian Muslim community, right? To the point where like Black Muslims or Arab Muslims are going to get erased.
They're just disregarded.
Yeah, especially Black Muslims. Like, there's a lot of racism in the Muslim community. Like let's put that out there. Like people will disagree with me, but I'll be very honest with you. It
exists.
It's a lot, right? Yeah. So all we want to do is like we want to reach out to people who are from diverse, not only just races, but also just walks of life and also like things that they're doing. We've had YouTubers, we've had politicians, we've had someone a hijabi working at the NFL, which is like a super cool dynamic. Today we had a photographer on. The episode will be on soon. Small little plug right there.
No, you gotta plug it. I'll let you give a little bit at the end to talk about it.
And things like that. You know what I mean? And we're talking to this guy to have on our podcast soon who is in the U.S. Army. Actually, he's a Black Muslim. He came from Chad. And this guy's a super hardworking guy. Like this guy's story is fantastic. I want to like kind of talk to him just to unpack all of that.
And I think people disregard that. Is like our community is just as intertwined as anyone else. And I wanted to bring this up. I actually didn't tell you about this. Is that not to talk about myself, but like my dad has been in the NYPD for over 15 years.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
He's a supervisor now. He wasn't in like armed or anything. He was a traffic agent, which a lot of brown people do. But people don't realize this is that a large amount of the NYPD is from like the Bengali and Pakistani community.
A lot of Bengalis, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, bless you. That's like the heart and soul of New York in a sense, But people just don't think about that.
And that's so important too. Think about it, right? Like, community should be policed by people who come from that community.
Yeah.
Right? Like, a white guy pulling up to my house, or like pulling up Jackson Heights, is not going to get the same reaction. Because what do police do? Police are there for situations that aren't good situations, right? Like traffic violations or like crime, murder, God forbid, whatever the case may be. Right? Would you rather hear that from someone who doesn't look like you, or someone who relates to your environment? Right. Someone who grew up down the street.
Right.
Or who knew your uncle.
And a big point that I want to bring up is that my dad, like I've talked to him about this a lot, is him getting into a supervisory role. The only reason he got there was because he's been here since the 70s, so his English is perfect. If he talked to you, you wouldn't be able to tell he wasn't born here or anything like that. But he had to deal with a lot of BS getting to his role. He had to deal with people, not giving him like the time of day and thinking he wasn't up for the role. But
because he looked like this, he had the skin color.
He had the skin color, and he showed them like he has a high school education from the U.S. He can read and write better than a lot of the people that are in those roles, and he got to the position. And the thing is now he's told me this, and my mom's told me this, and like I've heard it on conversations, is that everyone that works in his branch, like in the building that he works at, it's gotten so much more efficient because now everyone that works there that is also from the same background, they have someone that they can listen to and communicate and kind of he fills the gap in between for communication between the people who are Bengali or Muslim, whatever they may be, with those who aren't, who are also in the supervisory role. So he's like that middleman now, and because of that, the entire system, like everyone in the system and supervisors above him are telling him like everything's working smoother because of you.
And that's a typical immigrant thing where you have to work twice as hard for half as much.
Yeah.
Right, and that's also why like. I don't like the word diversity. I like the word representation. Right? Because diversity seems like an afterthought, right? Like, all right, we need that black person or that brown person on board just so we can like have
right.
Representation means, listen, like our community is 35% brown, so to not have any brown person there, how can we talk about the community then? Yeah. It's not representative.
This goes back to another thing. It's like it's pushing. That's another scenario of like push and pull. Like you want someone to go there from pushing, not being pulled into it.
Right.
Just because of like affirmative action.
Right.
So, like we need this color here right now. It's more like like they wanted to represent this role. They wanted to help the people, and they got themselves up there.
And because other people will vie toward
look up.
And the same way, like even like on a much smaller level on this campus, right? Like a lot of people who come from our backgrounds, right? May see me in my role and be like, hey, listen, like if you could do it, why can't I? Like I'm like, bro, I'm a clown, right? Like I'm not a very serious person, right? Like I'm playing very seriously right now, but most of the time I'm joking around. And they're like, hey, like if he can do it, why can't I? Right. And it's the same reason why I gave the Friday sermon, the khutbah, like a couple weeks ago. I'm not like the best Muslim in the world,
right?
But my whole point of doing it was like, listen, like you don't have to be, right? Like God understands no one's perfect, right? Like you're a U.S. president, right? I'm not like this is not the president of the whole world or United States, right? Like you don't have to be this super intelligent. I'm certainly not, right? But all you need is passion. I think that's what it boils down to, right? Like whatever you do in life, in your free time, in your spare time, for your work, for your play, for your family, it's all about passion.
Yeah.
If you're married to somebody you're not passionate about, not gonna work.
It's not gonna work out.
Right? If you're taking a job you're not passionate about, it's not gonna work out. You're doing a hobby just because it's cool. Like, let's say you don't like playing basketball, right? Everyone's playing basketball. This is a very simple example. You're just going just to like be hype or whatever, right? Be with cool kids. You're not gonna like it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let's say you enjoy making music, do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the whole point is, if you
you have to want to better yourself. You wanna, it has to be a natural desire to want to keep going. It can't be forced, because as soon as it's forced, if you lose even a little bit of desire, it's not going to work anymore. You're going to lose the want to keep going.
I think that's pretty much what it boils down to. Like, I'm not certainly saying you should going to if you're in a Stony Brook company, you're student government. Like, nah, for many people, that's not what they want to do.
You want to reach just a little above where you are. Just be a little better tomorrow than you were yesterday.
Yeah, and that's a key point, right? Self-improvement.
Yeah.
Right, and whether that's on a personal level, professional level, like spiritual level, like, listen, I'm not here to say that Islam is the best religion, whatever. Obviously, I have my personal beliefs. At the end of the day, whatever makes you feel like full, whether that's religion, whether that's spirituality, whether that's like Kanye West's new album, right? Whatever that is, use that to better yourself. Because at the end of the day, like, who am I to say my viewpoint is better than yours?
Yeah,
I'm not.
Everyone's their own person.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps it up. We've talked every point that I really want to talk about, even without any notes. But I just want you to tell people where they can find your podcast, listen to you and all that stuff, and then we can end it on that.
So my podcast is called What Muslims Look Like. You can go on YouTube, you search up What Muslims Look Like, it'll come up. I think it's like WMLL Podcast, something of that sort. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. What Muslims Look Like again. And if you guys are interested in being part of that podcast, or we're going to start using people's music in the intro and outro. So if you're doing something like that, reach out to me and you can find me.
I mean, my intro and outro was made by one of my friends. I don't know if he could help you. Mine is kind of weird. It's like a little elevator music type thing. I don't know if you heard it, but he can definitely help you out. He's a musician and all that stuff. So I'll book you up with that.
Dope.
But I'll link your website, the YouTube channel, all that stuff in the descriptions and all that. And thank you for being here, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Good conversation.